So, as the soldiers of the Ascrony Shrine are written in the Book of Souls, I have carved the names of so many of the victim souls who have been senselessly murdered as a result of not just the God of Abraham failing his people, but the people who have suffered to atone for the sins that it wasn't necessary for them to be atoning for, because if God of Abraham is omnipotently wealthy, he does not need his son to be born in a barn like an animal and wear a crown of thorns and die naked, nailed to a bit of wood. But on the same token, the crown of thorns is the crown of a king. Has there ever been a king as influential as the one who wore the crown of thorns and dying naked, nailed to a cross, shouting, "Father, why hast thou forsaken me?" Which sounds just like a despairing blasphemy about, because his mother never forsake him. His mother was at the foot of the cross the whole time. I mean, his apostles all ran away like cowards, except for John, who wrote the book of Revelation. And Andrew, a man by the name of Meadow Pollock's father, told me, he said, Matthew, John Kennedy wrote the book of Revelation. And when he said that, it was like a Pentecostal moment where it wasn't so much the words he said, but it was the spirit that entered my heart with those words that just kept repeating. And every time they repeated, there was like new meaning to John Kennedy wrote the book of Revelation and a new vision. And in fact, John Kennedy got the 666 votes, the 1956 Democratic Convention, 666 votes, and he died of a fatal head wound. And you know what? The Beast of the Apocalypse has a fatal head wound, which means he dies and he rises from the dead. Now, there's an entire book written called The Second Reign of JFK, and the only reason that I know who these Parkland victims are is because, and how they became significant to me, is because a jump off a 3-story building over something that had everything to do with John Kennedy dying 11/22, and a series of circumstances and a series of places that I went to and mistakes that I made and people I met that I attributed meaning to and supernatural graces to as a result of the 11/22 November 20 day in November death of John Kennedy and Jackie Lee Kennedy, with every single name involved in that. It's name alternatives for Meadow or Leah, the bride of Jacob, or Jacob. Jack Ruby, Jacob Ruby. Alternative kills Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee means Meadow, okay? Harvey was the man who was both in love with the Rachel, the bride of Batman, the bride of Jacob, the bride of he was supposed to be Harvey's bride, okay? But because of the actions of Batman, Harvey felt like Batman was the cause of Rachel's death. And rabbis always say Rachel must die. You can only take Leah with you. Harley Quinn, Hare, and Leah. The Chinese zodiac for Meadow Pollock is the rabbit, okay? And her middle name, Jade. The Jade rabbit is the most Messiah, is the rabbit that's the immortal Messiah that offered itself, if you haven't seen my other YouTubes, offered itself to the Jade Emperor to be a meal because he was disguised as a very starving, impoverished person. And this poor rabbit felt, well, maybe I can offer this man a meal to relieve some of his agony as the best thing that I can do with my life, because what else am I going to die from? I can at least die giving this guy a meal, and maybe I will save his life. And that is precisely what Meadow Jade, whose Chinese zodiac is the rabbit, probably did not think there was a high chance or possibility that she was going to succeed at saving a life. But the bottom line is she did what she could with what was in her power to. After there was all that trauma, all of that noise, the police were failing to do their job, and she has not been trained for a high-risk situation like that where people are so petrified, they freeze in terror. And she already took a few bullets. And you know what? If Meadow had a freaking gun, we should give people like her guns. She carried a gun in her purse. She would have taken Nicholas Cruz, the confused Nicholas Cruz, Ebenezer Scrooge, the Three Stooges. He has the name of Saint Nicholas, the her father won't even use his name, and maybe that he killed one third of his victims were Jewish, and they told me, possibly joking, or if it wasn't delusion, that one third of the victims of the Parkland shooting were Jewish because they don't believe in Santa Claus. This is Saint Nicholas, but his middle name is Jacob, and Jacob was not like that. Jacob did have a problem with Leah, though. Meadow is the meaning of Leah, but Leah was his most important bride, which it was hidden from him until after his death. Now Leah is like everything to that man and everything to me, because my last name is an alternative for John and Jack, the two names that JFK went by. Jack is an alternative for Jacob, Jack Ruby. Ruby's a gemstone. Jade is a gemstone, and those are like the cornerstones of the church on the rock, Alcatraz. Alcatraz is called the Rock, living life on the rock, and the cornerstones of the rock, it's a prison ministry. Take the creatures from the bottomless pit, because the Statue of Liberty wears the crown of Apollo, the crown of a sun god. Shinto has the sun goddess as the highest divinity, so now she wears the crown of Apollo. She's the jade color, and she's from New York, where Andrew, her father, used to live, and where Spider-Man was invented, his hometown of Queens. Stan Lee, Saint Stanislaus is called Saint Stan, okay? He was right across the street from where I used to live at 243 Western Avenue South, next to Cooper's, and I didn't know about that for so long. Right next to him is an Asian restaurant called Tori with an anchor. An anchor is a symbol for Saint Philomena, another very important saint. I got released from jail miraculously on the feast of Saint Philomena, 8/11, August 11th. Where I used to celebrate Philomena on the 11th of every month, and I got arrested on 5/11, which is 5/11 is that's the day that the day of the year Minnesota became officially a state of the United States. And what the arrest was over, let me put it this way, okay? When you see my record, it doesn't look like what you think it would look. Writing a bunch of letters and sending emails, if you were to know, I was trying my best in an idiotic way to try to help somebody, to help somebody be better at what I believe she would be so good at. And some very serious consequences that happened as a result of some mistakes that I thought we were both supposed to grow from. And so, thinking the best, we're both supposed to learn as much from what almost cost me, a permanent paralysis in a wheelchair, would almost cost me death, pissing blood clots larger than marbles after my urethra got clogged with scar tissue, and from the broken bones in my pelvis. And I was stuck there. I couldn't talk. I had tubes coming out of my throat. And, I was bleeding blood clots larger than marbles. And when I was in a wheelchair, I was leaving trails of blood on the floor. From this, I was wearing D-pens that were, drenched in blood. I mean, if you women think you've got it bad when you have a period, man, could you imagine if women went through that when they are having their period? That would be like the janitors at a school would be cleaning up what looked like a Columbine freaking crime scene every day from women having their period and not staying home. That was like crazy, but it was excruciatingly painful. When I was urinating, it was like it felt like there was a glass shard stuck at the end of my penis, and the urine was got way differently because of the surgery. So I would have to urinate a little bit, and then I would have to hold it, and then urinate a little bit more, and hold it, and I couldn't let it all just flow at once because of how much pain was involved in just something as simple as urinating. And what I'm trying to say is this: there's so many people that's a lifelong ordeal, and the catheter got all bloody and crusty, and there's blood, dried blood and pus, and a catheter moves back and forth when you sit down and when you're moving around, and that's going back and forth, and I've got a urinary tract infection, which is making the pain a lot worse. I mean, urinary tract infections, that's like that feels like gonorrhea or chlamydia. Just you're just urinating without a crusty catheter going in and out. Then they take the catheter out, and what happens? The dried, crusty, freaking blood that feels like sandpaper or rust or whatever. It's getting stuck at the end of my pee-pee. It's like she's having to pull and it's not coming out, and it's just stuck. And I was groaning in pain. But that pain, it's something I can offer up, and it's something that I can.